In the heart of the night, where shadows danced with the faint moonlight, Ethan drove along the serpentine road that cut through the dense forest. The car's headlights pierced the darkness, casting long, ghostly beams that seemed to swallow the road ahead. The dense canopy of trees formed a dark tunnel, with branches occasionally scraping against the car like skeletal fingers. Ethan, a young man in his late 20s, had always found solace in these nocturnal drives. They were an escape, a way to disconnect from the relentless pace of his daily life. Tonight, however, the road felt different, more isolating, as if it were not just a path through the woods, but a journey into the depths of his own thoughts. The car's engine hummed a steady, hypnotic rhythm, blending with the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Ethan's mind wandered, drifting through memories and regrets. Lost in a maze of introspection, he thought about the choices that had led him here to this solitary road at this solitary hour. Suddenly, a jarring thud shattered the night's tranquility. Ethan's heart leapt into his throat as he slammed on the brakes. The car skidded to a halt, gravel crunching under its tires. For a moment, Ethan sat frozen, his hands gripping the steering wheel, his breath caught in a mixture of shock and confusion. He stepped out of the car, the cool night air brushing against his skin. The silence of the forest was now a heavy, tangible thing, broken only by the faint ticking of the car's cooling engine. Ethan's flashlight sliced through the darkness as he inspected the front of the car. The beam fell upon a chilling sight. The hood was smeared with blood, a stark crimson stain against the dark metal. His stomach churned at the sight, a mix of fear and revulsion gnawing in his gut. But there was no body, no sign of any creature. Ethan scanned the surrounding forest, the flashlight's beam darting from tree to tree, revealing nothing but the dense underbrush and the endless dark. The forest seemed to hold its breath, watching, waiting. Then, from somewhere in the distance came a sound that made Ethan's blood run cold, a whistle. It was faint, barely more than a whisper carried on the wind, but unmistakably human. A melody that was both strange and eerily familiar. It seemed to weave through the trees, a haunting serenade in the stillness of the night. Ethan's mind raced with possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. Was someone out there, watching him? Or was it simply the wind playing tricks, a natural sound twisted into something more sinister by his rattled nerves? With a shiver, Ethan hurried back to the safety of his car. As he drove away, the blood on the hood seemed to glow in the rear-view mirror, a crimson reminder of the night's unsettling turn. The road ahead was swallowed once more by darkness, the trees closing in like silent sentinels. And through it all, the faint whistle lingered in the air, a haunting melody that followed him as he drove deeper into the heart of the night. Ethan's hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel as he drove away from the unsettling scene. The blood-stained hood of his car was a stark, visceral contrast to the enveloping darkness of the forest road. His mind, a whirlpool of thoughts and fears, struggled to make sense of what had just happened. The eerie whistle, though faint, clung to the edges of his consciousness, a haunting refrain that refused to be silenced. The road ahead seemed to stretch endlessly, its path winding and obscure under the cloak of night. The dense trees on either side appeared as looming specters, their branches swaying gently in the night breeze, as if whispering secrets to one another. The occasional rustle in the underbrush set Ethan's nerves on edge, every sound and movement magnified by his heightened state of alert. An hour passed. The monotony of the drive interrupted only by the occasional flicker of a nocturnal creature's eyes in the headlights. Ethan's thoughts drifted back to his childhood, to the days when life seemed simpler, untouched by the complexities and disappointments of adulthood. He remembered his mother's gentle voice, humming melodies that would lull him to sleep, a soothing balm for a restless child's mind. Without warning, the tranquility of his reminiscence was shattered. Another thud, abrupt and jarring, snapped Ethan back to the present. His heart raced as he braked hard, the car screeching to a stop. A sense of déjà vu washed over him, a chilling replay of the earlier incident. Stepping out of the car, Ethan's flashlight revealed the same grim scene. The hood was again smeared with fresh blood, yet there was no victim, no trace of any impact. The forest around him was eerily still, as if holding its breath. And then, cutting through the silence, the whistle returned. This time it was louder, clearer. It was no longer a distant whisper, but a melodic, haunting tune that seemed to surround him. The melody was unmistakable. It was the lullaby his mother used to hum, a tune from his childhood, now twisted into something chilling, something otherworldly. Ethan's skin prickled with goosebumps. The familiarity of the tune in such an alien and unsettling context was disorienting. He scanned the darkness, the flashlight's beam darting frantically. But there was nothing, only the dense trees, the shadows, and the night. The whistling continued, a spectral serenade that seemed to beckon him. Ethan felt an inexplicable pull, a morbid curiosity that would get him to uncover the source of this haunting melody. But fear rooted him to the spot, a primal instinct warning him of unseen dangers lurking in the dark. As the whistling grew more insistent, Ethan's mind raced with questions. Was this a warning? A call from something unknown, or perhaps the workings of his own imagination, fraying under the strain of solitude and the night's eerie events? With a deep, steadying breath, Ethan made a decision. He wouldn't leave this mystery unsolved. He needed to understand, to confront whatever was playing this macabre version of his mother's lullaby. Climbing back into his car, Ethan's resolve hardened. The night was deep, the road long, but he would seek out the source of the whistling. With each turn of the wheels, the melody seemed to grow in intensity, a haunting echo in the vast, dark forest. The whispers in the dark had called out to him, and he was compelled to answer. Ethan's car crawled along the forest road, its headlights cutting a swathe through the oppressive darkness. The haunting melody of the whistle seemed to seep from the very shadows of the trees, enveloping him in a shroud of eerie familiarity. With each passing moment, the tune grew louder, more insistent, as if urging him to stop, to listen, to understand. Finally, he could bear it no longer. Ethan brought the car to a standstill, the engine's hum dying into silence. He sat there for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest, his breath fogging the windshield. The lullaby, his mother's lullaby, filled the air around him, a ghostly chorus that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the forest. Steeling himself, Ethan opened the car door and stepped out into the night. The ground beneath his feet was soft, the fallen leaves muffling his footsteps. The air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of earth and moss. Above him, the branches of the ancient trees interlaced, forming a dark canopy against the starless sky. As he ventured away from the safety of his car, the flashlight in his hand seemed feeble against the enveloping darkness. The whistle grew louder, more tangible, as if it were leading him deeper into the forest. Ethan's eyes strained in the dim light, searching for any sign of movement, any hint of the whistle's source. Then, without warning, shadows began to gather in the periphery of his vision. At first, they were indistinct, mere flickers of movement that could have been dismissed as tricks of the light. But as Ethan continued to watch, they coalesced into forms, human forms emerging from the mist and darkness. The figures were ethereal, their edges blurred and shifting, as if they were not entirely of this world. They moved slowly, gracefully, their movements synchronized with the haunting melody of the whistle. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he realized that these were no ordinary shadows. They were the spirits of the forest, the lost souls bound to this place of eternal twilight. The realization sent a shiver down his spine, a mix of fear and awe. These spectral figures seemed drawn to the lullaby, their expressions ones of longing and sorrow. As they drew closer, Ethan could see the pain etched into their ghostly faces, the silent agony of unspoken stories and forgotten lives. Ethan stood rooted to the spot, his mind racing. The lullaby, a simple tune from his childhood, had become a bridge between the living and the dead. It was a connection, a thread that linked him to these lost spirits, and in that moment he understood what he needed to do. With a trembling breath, Ethan began to whistle. The melody flowed from him, pure and clear, cutting through the night air. The spirits paused, their movement stilling as they turned towards him. The forest held its breath. The only sound, the haunting echo of Ethan's tune. As he whistled, the spirits seemed to respond. Their forms became less agitated, their expressions less pained. The melody wove around them a soothing balm that calmed their restless souls. Ethan felt a profound sense of connection, a deep empathy for these lost wanderers of the night. The lullaby continued, a solitary refrain in the heart of the forest, a beacon of light in the overwhelming darkness. And for a brief, fleeting moment, the boundary between the living and the dead blurred, united by the simple, heartfelt melody of a mother's lullaby. In the heart of the forest, under the watchful gaze of ancient trees, Ethan stood encircled by the spectral figures. The air around him was thick with an ethereal energy, charged by the presence of the spirits and the haunting melody he whistled. His tune, a simple lullaby, wove through the night, a thread of warmth in the cold tapestry of the forest. The spirits, drawn to the sound, began to change. Their movements, once erratic and pained, now flowed with a grace and tranquility that transformed the clearing into a stage of silent ballet. The melody seemed to resonate with their essence, soothing the turmoil that had bound them to this earthly realm. Ethan watched, his heart a mix of awe and sorrow, as the spirits swayed gently to the rhythm of the lullaby. Their faces, once contorted with the agony of their untold stories, now softened. In their eyes, he saw the glimmer of tears, the release of pent-up emotions that had been trapped within them for untold years. The forest itself seemed to respond to the melody. The leaves rustled softly, as if in appreciation of the music, and the wind carried the tune further into the depths of the woods, spreading its calming influence. The moon, breaking through the canopy above, cast a gently glow over the scene, bathing both Ethan and the spirits in a soft, silver light. As Ethan continued to whistle, he felt an overwhelming sense of connection to these lost souls. He realized that in this moment he was their conduit to peace, their final audience to a performance that had been waiting for a conclusion. The lullaby was more than a tune. It was a key to unlocking the chains of their torment. The spirits began to draw nearer to Ethan, their forms becoming more defined in the moonlight. He could see the echoes of their lives in their ghostly faces, the joys and sorrows, the hopes and despairs. Each spirit seemed to carry a story, a life cut short, now finding solace in the melody that Ethan offered. As the lullaby reached its crescendo, the spirits' dance became more fervent, their forms glowing with a light that seemed to emanate from within. They were no longer mere shadows of the past, but had become luminous beings, radiant with the release of their long-held burdens. And then, as the final notes of the lullaby hung in the air, the spirits began to fade. One by one, they dissolved into the night, their departure as graceful as their dance. With each spirit that vanished, the forest seemed to sigh, a sound of relief and gratitude. Ethan stood alone in the clearing, the silence enveloping him like a cloak. The moonlight shone down, a solitary witness to the night's profound events. He realized that the melody he had whistled, a simple lullaby from his childhood, had become a powerful anthem of healing and farewell. The night had transformed from a canvas of fear and mystery to one of beauty and serenity. Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had played a part in guiding these restless spirits to their long-awaited peace. The melody of the night had worked its magic, a testament to the power of music and empathy in the darkest of places. As the final notes of the lullaby faded into the stillness of the forest, Ethan stood alone in the clearing, enveloped in a profound silence. The moon, now a fading sentinel in the sky, cast its last silver beams through the canopy of trees. As if bidding farewell to the night's spectral events, the air around Ethan felt different now, lighter, as though a great weight had been lifted from the very soul of the forest. The oppressive sense of sorrow and unrest that had once permeated the woods had dissipated, replaced by a tranquil peace that seemed to whisper through the leaves and settle upon the earth. Ethan looked around, his eyes tracing the paths where the spirits had danced their final dance. Where there had once been shadows and whispers, there was now just the gentle rustling of the forest waking up to a new day. The eerie, haunting atmosphere had vanished with the spirits, leaving behind a sense of closure and serenity. As he stood there, lost in thought, the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. The darkness retreated, chased away by the soft hues of morning. The forest transformed before Ethan's eyes, the menacing shapes of the night giving way to the familiar, comforting sights of the daytime woods. Ethan felt a profound sense of exhaustion wash over him, both physical and emotional. The events of the night had taken their toll, yet within him, there was also a newfound sense of purpose and understanding. He had witnessed something extraordinary, something that transcended the boundaries of the natural world. He had played a crucial role in the release of tormented souls, guiding them to peace with the simple, heartfelt melody of a lullaby. As he made his way back to his car, the first birds of dawn began to sing, their melodies a vibrant chorus that filled the morning air. The forest, once a place of mystery and fear, now seemed alive with the promise of a new day. Ethan felt a connection to this place, a bond forged through the shared experience of the night. Driving away from the clearing, Ethan carried with him the memories of the night, the haunting whistle, the gathering of the spirits, and the powerful lullaby that had bridged the world of the living and the dead. The experience had changed him, opened his eyes to the unseen wonders and mysteries that lay hidden in the shadows of the world. As the sun rose higher, casting its warm glow over the land, Ethan felt a sense of hope and renewal. The night's events, though surreal and otherworldly, had imparted a profound truth that in the heart of darkness there is light, and in the midst of sorrow there is the possibility of peace and release. The melody of the lullaby lingered in his mind, a soothing reminder of the night's encounter. It was a testament to the enduring power of music and empathy, a melody that had transcended time and realm to bring solace to restless souls. And as Ethan drove on, the new light of dawn guiding his way, he knew that this experience would stay with him forever, a poignant echo of the night when the lullaby had brought peace to the shadows of the forest.